today and good morning. The Committee on Health, Tourism, Military Affairs, and Senior Citizens now convenes this public hearing. Public hearing notices were provided to the media. First notice on Thursday, March 30th, 2017. Second notice on Monday, April 3rd, 2017. For the record, today's Thursday, April 6th, 2017, and the time now is 10:08 a.m. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on Bill 17-34, introduced by myself and Senator Agustin, which is relative to establishing guidelines for animal-assisted interventions. I'd like to recognize Senator Agustin, the Vice Chairman of the committee. Thank you very much, Senator, for being here. Our Legislative Secretary, Regine Lee, Senator, thank you. Senator Luis Muña, just want to say for being here. And thank you all for being here. I want to give a special acknowledgement to Donnie and thank Donnie for being here with us this morning. As I call your name, if you can please come forward so we can accept your testimony. If you're just here as a supporter and don't wish to provide oral testimony, we have you listed here on your sign-in sheet. We have written to Shannon Celine, Cyrus Lur from Gain, and Allison, and all others who have signed up have indicated support and are just here to provide that support. Also want to recognize our animal control officers from the Department of Agriculture. Thank you very much for being here, sir. Okay. So just a little brief summary of what this bill does. Bill 17 is relative to establishing guidelines for animal-assisted interventions. What this is really set up the guidelines and the structure for our government to move forward in animal-assisted interventions. Personally, in my family, I've seen it in a very short period of time where a dog that we adopted from Gain has really changed our household completely. Our 4-year-old and 10-year-old, actually even our 21-year-old and my wife and myself have really grown to formerly called T-Bone, now is Todu from Gain, and really has changed, and we see the difference, at least with our kids. My Chief of Staff, Chuck Tanner, who has really brought this issue forward and ensured that we get it moving here. Last year, early last year, brought this issue forward to me, and we moved very fast. We went to the prison, to DOC, and broached this idea with them. It's something that is moving forward in the prison system. We want to be able to use this throughout our government, especially in areas where it's very important. Naval Hospital has a program. We want to ensure that GMH has a program in helping in the healing of patients there. Even the courts nationwide, we see how animals are used in court cases and trials where children are being brought in and being able to use these animals for them to be able to testify in trials. And so we see the benefits this is having, and we want to ensure that we provide this same program here in our community. So thank you very much for being here. We'll go ahead and start with Ms. Shannon Celine.
My name is Shannon Celine. I moved to Guam 12 years ago as an off-island teacher recruit with 2 trained therapy dogs. In New York, my German Shepherd worked with children who were bitten by dogs to help them to not be afraid anymore. My chocolate lab went to the cancer ward at the local children's hospital to help the children who were sad. When I arrived in Guam as a special education teacher, I couldn't believe that there were no programs for animal-assisted interventions. I asked everywhere, and no one even wanted to start any programs. After a while, I just gave up. I also have been living with anxiety my whole life. In the past few years, I was in a very bad job, and I had major medical issues. My anxiety became so bad that it was impossible for me to function normally. I have a wonderful husband who started to teach my German Shepherd, Siba, to help me through panic attacks. We slowly trained her to become my service animal. After I went through this whole process, my employer, GDOE, refused to allow her to attend work with me. After over a year of legal battles which caused more anxiety and a loss of pay, I went to the EEOC. In August of this year, myself and Siva went back to work at DL Perez Elementary School as a second grade teacher. Siva was able to recognize when I was getting anxious, alert me, provide deep pressure, provide a place to stim so that I would not scratch my arms and get sores. She helped me get my medicine, and when needed, she would go and get help for me. She also helped me get to sleep and wake up daily. She took my life from one that I hated going out and I hated going to work to manageable once again. Siva totally changed my life. My students and the community loved her. The hardest day of my life came in February when Siva died. Today, I have Donnie Dalton with me. He is 9 weeks old, and he is undergoing training to become my service animal so I can once again be able to do everything. After fighting for my rights to have a service animal, I have started to give professional developments and lectures about service animals and assistance animals. These lectures are available for community groups, employers, and even people wanting to know more about receiving a service animal. I give all of these lectures free of charge. Another aspect of this bill is assistance animals or therapy animals. Assistance animals can help so many people, from a child who is afraid to testify in court, to someone who needs help learning to read, to a sick child in a hospital, and even people with disabilities. I am coming here in full support of this bill, as I do not want to ever have anyone go through what I did, and I also want to be able to give back to my community again with my therapy dog, Nitrox. I specifically want Nitrox to be able to go to the hospital to cheer up sick children and to go to school to have them with help learning to read. I do, however, have a few suggestions for revisions to this law. On page 5, in section 34401B, the full definition of disability according to the ADA was not included. I recommend putting a period after the word amended and deleting the rest of the definition. The federal ADA has already defined disability, and the abbreviated definition will only create confusion. On page 13, 34402, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center needs to be added. I have already had to fight with my service animal at GBHWC. No one in need should ever be turned away from this facility for having a service animal. Also, this is a location that is in need of many therapy animals. On page 14, section 34102, I believe that service animals do need to be identifiable, and that this should not be just encouraged, but mandated. I am aware that not all assistant animals can wear vests, and that the markings cannot be uniform. But I do believe the law should state that assistant animals need to have some sort of marking to allow others to identify the type of assistance animals. This will prevent people from faking and allow for businesses and agencies to properly identify a working animal without harassing the handler. I have brought several forms of identification with me, and as you can see, it can be as simple as a collar like Donnie is wearing today, or all the way up to a full vest. And last, this is Siva in my school picture and ID. I would like to request a change of the name of the bill. I fought for a long time to have Siva with me. She changed my life by being in service with me. She slowly changed the outlook of others on Guam about service animals by going everywhere with me. From DL Perez Elementary School, Payless, Micronesia Mall, GPO, several restaurants, SDA, and even Kmart. She helped me educate so many people about service animals and people with invisible disabilities. I would like to suggest changing the name of the bill to Siva's Law. She was truly an amazing animal who helped not only me, but the community of Guam. So do us ma'asi.
Jesus Masi, Shannon, thank you very much, and thank you to Donnie for being here. Mr.
My name is Cyrus Lure. Thank you very much, Honorable Senators, Chairman Rodriguez, for this opportunity to provide testimony on Bill 17-34. My name is Cyrus Lure. For the last 8-9 years, I've had the privilege of serving my testimonies being provided in my capacity as the President of the Board of Directors of GAIN. With me today is Allison Hadley. She is the Executive Director of GAIN, and what we'll do is I'll very briefly talk about what our stance is overall in terms of AAI, and she'll discuss some of the AAI-type activities that we support at the shelter and that we would like to see advanced in the near future. GAIN is an organization we've been around since 1989. Since the mid-90s, we began helping out with operations at the shelter, and since the early 2000s, we've actually run the government animal shelter. And so we run and operate the only animal shelter on Guam. Every animal that's picked up is brought to on base, on off base, injured, lost, abused. They all come to us, and we do the best we can to provide them care and a positive outcome to their lives, and rehome them as much as we can. In the time that we've run the animal shelter, we've been able to find homes for over 15,000 animals on Guam, and we're very proud of the work that our volunteers and our staff do on a daily basis. And it is a daily basis. It's 365 days a year. We believe that the bill is a very positive one, and we fully support it. We believe it will advance a lot of, it will significantly improve public health outcomes on island. In terms of AAI in general, we at GAIN have been researching and looking at stateside models and seeing what is effective there, and time and again we're very impressed by some of the things that we see. I think the example that you brought up, Chairman, earlier in terms of children in the courtroom, it's extremely impressive. When a child has gone through a traumatic experience, it's very difficult for them to provide testimony. But many courtrooms allow now for a dog to be in the courtroom so the child can provide the testimony to a non-judgmental entity, and they feel more comfortable. And through that, the court can get very important information that it needs without re-traumatizing the child by having them go through that experience again. That's something that we can implement here in Guam, and I think it would have a very significant impact. And in terms of AAI in general, the positive activities run the gamut, from being able to help returned veterans who might be struggling with PTSD to more advanced activities like seeing eye dogs, to helping people in retirement communities and such be able to interact with people, with an entity on a daily basis. So we are very optimistic about this bill. We would like to see it pass. We would do everything that we can to support the advancement of it. And you brought up the discussions with Departments of Corrections over the past year, and we're very thankful for those connections and for you bringing us into that discussion. We are in conversation with DOC. In very general terms, we know that it's going to take a long time to develop something like this, but we want to lay the groundwork today in terms of developing a prison dog program in the future. The concept being that we would take animals from GAIN and take them to DOC and have inmates interact and train those animals. It provides a very positive focus for energies for incarcerated people. It also allows them, an ability to build some positive skills that they may be able to utilize once they leave the prison system. Once that program advances, the idea is that we can train those animals with more advanced skills and possibly have them come back to the animal shelter, and thus animals that may not have been adopted previously because they're perfectly well adjusted, but they're just not as cute as some other animals. Now they can sit, stay, and follow basic commands, and we'll be able to adopt them out more easily. And so we think it's a win-win situation. We think it's a very positive idea, and we would like to see that advance, and this bill does that. What I'll do now is pass the mic over to Allison, and she'll discuss some of the other projects that we're doing on site at GAIN.
Afadi and Sizu Usmaasi for having us this morning. Guam Animals in Need for a couple of years and currently we're involved with a variety of probably more smaller scale type AAI similar programs, probably more focused as what the bill defines as companion animals. In the past, GAIN has brought animals to St. Dominic's to provide some interaction with the Manungkuan Island to get some of that one-on-one time with animals that has, research has shown just physical contact with animals, provides a great deal of support emotionally and mentally, and just provides them some interaction with, another being, which is shown to be very beneficial. That is something that we would like to reestablish in the future. Currently, GAIN does provide some interaction with children, of course. We do have 4 Paws and a Tail, which takes place at the Aganya Library, usually every Saturday morning. And as was mentioned previously, it provides kind of a judgment-free zone for children to improve their reading skills with a furry friend. It's always great for volunteers and staff to do this interaction as well. It gives everybody a very good experience, including the animal. The animal gets exposure to young people, which is always beneficial and helps with adoption as well. We do visit classrooms and schools fairly regularly. They also come up to the shelter to learn a wide variety of animal-focused topics. And we, of course, want them to spend some intimate time with these animals so that they can get some hands-on experience with them and, again, expose the animals to a wide variety of ages. We have students as young as kindergarten all the way up into the university level that come and visit and learn about, animal issues on island, just basics on how to care for the animal, and the benefits of having animals in your home. We also provide some interaction with groups that come from places like Kamalang Karadat. They will bring them up usually once a week to spend some time just interacting with the animals. There is one client in particular who specifically asks to come up to GAIN because the interaction with the animals is very important to him. He unfortunately was in an accident and suffered some brain trauma, and this interaction with the animals is a very calming experience for him, and so they always do their best to try and bring him up so he can spend that much needed one-on-one time with one of our dogs. And currently, we also have a student who comes from one of the high schools who does suffer from a mental disability, and he loves animals so much, all animals. And he comes up with his one-to-one aid and will spend a couple of hours, usually 2 to 3 times a week, just participating in some of the basics, with the staff. But then his ultimate goal and favorite part of his day while he's up there with us is to spend time with the dogs as well as the cats. And it just provides him a very soothing experience, and his mom has been very happy with his interactions up at GAIN, and so we definitely, love to be able to contribute to that, and it helps our animals generate a much more, a stronger connection to a wide variety of people in different situations. So at the base of it all, GAIN, one of GAIN's major focuses right now is to be much more involved with the community and strives to make stronger connections with the community, all aspects of the community. So we absolutely support, continuous efforts to maintain and strengthen that connection between the community at large and animals. And we really think that it will benefit the people as well as the animals on Guam. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much to both of you for your testimony, and thank you for the work that you guys are doing, and for really taking the connection between DOC and you guys to the next level. We really want to see that prison dog program move forward. So thank you. I want to ask the Vice Chair if he has any questions or comments.
Number one, I'd like to thank the 3 of you for being here today in support of the bill. Mrs. Shannon, the beauty of your comments and your request for the name change, that would be highly considered, but that would have to change on the floor, okay? And that's just how the standing rules work. All the amendments recommended, I'll be sitting with Senator Rodriguez recommending that change to add that, okay? As far as anything else, I'm also I noticed, remember, I mentioned to you earlier, you have a Labrador. I used to have 2 labs, 2 black labs. And because I'm a wrestling fan, they were named Rock and China. But that's how it works, right? But and I'm from Jigu and I'm familiar with game. And I just wish we can promote it a lot more. But when you mentioned, Shannon, earlier about the problems you had at DOE, I am the oversight chair of DOE education. And I will be addressing that issue because if I'm correct, there's a federal law when we're dealing with the service dog. So
I did end up going through the EEOC, and as of August 1st of last year, it is resolved, and I do have a federal mandate that my service animal is allowed with me at school at all times.
And what was the result?
That is the result. I do have, Donnie will start going with me, and Siva was able to go with me last year.
Okay, good, because I'm meeting with some of the board members today at noon, so
Yeah.
I'm happy I heard that. And I'll make sure that I remind them to make sure they're in compliance with all federal laws. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all so much for your testimony. Ms. Celine, thank you so much. I really appreciate it as an animal lover and a mother of my first furry baby. I really appreciate just your experience, but also your advocacy on behalf of the entire community. So we're really frustrated and very sad about what you've had to endure in the past, but I have a lot of hope for the future because you spoke out and because you were an advocate and you really are a champion on this issue. I really want to give you a lot of kudos, and we know that all dogs go to heaven, so we know where Siva is, and we want to, again, just thank you so much for your work. Also to our representatives from GAIN, thank you for your continued advocacy. I was not aware of the 4 Paws and a Tail program on Saturday morning, so I'm going to have to get with you to find out the time because I would love to bring my kids down. I have a couple of questions for you, if anybody on the panel is able to answer. So I know that the bill uses the term animal-assisted interventions, and I'm familiar with the concept, but maybe is there a federal definition for this, and could we include it in the bill, or would you recommend that we include it in the bill?
There actually are 3 federal definitions. The first definition is a service animal. A service animal is any animal that helps someone with a disability, whether it be invisible or not. That animal must be trained to provide at least 3 tasks that the person cannot do for themselves, whether it be a hearing dog, alerting at the door, a vision dog, helping someone walk, or an anxiety dog, alerting, calming someone down, and getting medicine and help. The second definition is an emotional support animal. An emotional support animal is for someone with a psychiatric disability that has a prescription. Those animals are allowed to go on planes and also in housing. They cannot be denied housing. And the last definition from the federal law is a therapy dog. Therapy dog is a dog that is trained to be well behaved and can be used in any situation, such as in the courtroom, in the 4 Paws and a Tail, anywhere that the dog is not being used to help the handler, it is being used to help somebody else.
I appreciate that. And maybe if you could answer an additional question, how many people on Guam are currently using these types of animals? Maybe folks from GAIN might be able to get a better handle on that. Does anybody know?
For service animals, I know that 2 people just left island. Currently, there are only 2 actual service animals, including Donnie and one other. I do know of about 4 or 5 people that have emotional support animals. As far as the therapy dogs, I think that would be a better question for GAIN. I've had a hard time finding a lot of programs for that.
It's difficult for us to estimate because there are some programs that will come and go, and people move on island with certain skills and then later move off island as well. It's not many, but I apologize if we don't have an exact number for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you again for your testimony, and Sharon, I want to Shannon, excuse me, I want to offer you my condolences for Siva. As a dog lover myself, I had a child. I called her a child for 16 years, and it was really hard to lose her and watch my children say goodbye to her as well too. So I understand your feeling, and that probably never goes away. So my condolences to you. I do have a question, and maybe this could be answered by Gain. So the requirement for training for animal assistive dogs or even service dogs, is that a special, does that require a special trainer, or, I mean, does it depend on the type of service that they're going to be offering, and does Gain offer that?
We don't offer that directly ourselves. So we don't have people certified. I mean, there are different types of certifications, or people come from different schools of certifications and training. We do have people on island who do have those skill sets. Unfortunately, we actually very recently lost one of our board members who moved stateside, who was a very skilled trainer herself. But we do have folks on island that do have that skill set. We just don't do that exactly at Gain. I would defer to the content expert in terms of exactly what those certifications entail.
Okay.
For a service animal, you do not have to have the dog formally trained by an agency. It is recommended that you do have the dog get the Canine Good Citizen Advanced exam, as well as the dog must be able to show that they can do at least 3 skills. Although with federal law, it's very limited as to who is allowed to ask to see those 3 skills. For an emotional support animal, there are absolutely no requirements. You must have a doctor's certification, and the dog is supposed to be well behaved in public places, be housebroken, and be non-aggressive. For a therapy animal, most states do require that the dog go through a training. So when I lived in New York State, I took both of my animals to a 6 weeks training course for my dogs to get it. There are alternatives. My husband and I train all of our own dogs, including our therapy dogs. The biggest thing is they do need to be able to pass at a minimum the Canine Good Citizen Advanced test. Currently, unfortunately, we do not have any testers on island. I'm working with some people to be able to remedy that. But at a minimum, the dog must be able to be housebroken, have absolutely no security training in any 3 of them. You can't have a dog that's aggressive, and they must be fixed. All dogs must be spayed or neutered. And
Thank you.
if interested, I do have all of this in email form from my presentations that I can send to you, as well as some infographics I can send.
Thank you. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
If you can provide that to us, if you haven't, then we'll also disseminate
Yeah.
it amongst the senators.
I'll send it to Chuck, and you
Yes.
can send it out.
Thank you.
Yes, and there
Vice-
will.
Vice Speaker?
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your testimony and insight on this bill. I have a couple questions. Hope maybe you be able to help me or the sponsor. But it seems to me you've resolved this issue with DOE. So is it correct to interpret that to mean that we don't really need rules and regs anymore for DOE? The DOE, I mean, actually everybody is supposed to be allowing service dogs in particular, right?
Hypothetically, we never should have had the issue to begin with because the ADA law did go into
Right.
effect in the 90s. But the part of the law where it is asking to have the rules and regulations, that is more so that they can set up animal-assisted therapy programs.
Okay.
I know I personally tried to get a program started with DOE to be able to bring my dogs in just to have the kids to read. Even though Siva was my service animal and the kids couldn't touch her, they would ask, Miss Celine, can I read to Siva today? And I had kids that didn't want to read to me, but they would read to Siva during recess, during lunch, during any time they could get away with it. And those are the programs that need to be started at behavioral health, at DOE, at the Department of Corrections. And that's what I believe that section of the law was looking for.
Okay, well, yeah, I just want to make sure that that's very clear then, because under each entity, under GURA, it says they're going to incorporate animal-assisted interventions and service dogs. And under GMH, it says animal-assisted therapy, therapy dogs, and service dogs.
Now, GMH has not been open to allowing a service animal in its facility yet, and that does still need to be rectified, as well as Guam Behavioral Health.
And
Even
under
though it is
public-
federal law, they have not been following the federal law. If I right now were to be taken by ambulance with Donnie, or had been taken with Siva, they would have been taken away from me at the door, as they, it would be having them act, and then I'd have to then go to the EEOC and fight it later.
All right, do you agree? Okay, and then under public health, it says animal-assisted interventions, and it's not any more specific than that. And then under DOE, it says animal-assisted interventions.
I would, those should probably be changed to therapy dog.
Okay.
That's
and
more
then
of what-
under the AG, it says courthouse facility dogs. So those are not, this is not, by this bill, establishing a service dog or a therapy dog program, but a courthouse facility dog.
Animal-assisted intervention is an overall broad term for all three categories.
But for the courthouse part here, it doesn't say that, right? So I just want to, make sure that all these terms that we are using, you were correct. Because if our intention is to get therapy in some of these places, so service dogs should be allowed in all of these
Correct.
places. We shouldn't even need rules and regs, I think, to
I
get those
agree.
in. The therapy, yes, we are going to need a law, maybe that allows it, that pushes it, and then the rules that just facilitates that. And things, do you agree with this other list then of there's places a place of public accommodation does not include Department of Corrections, DYA, local Guam Police Department lockup, and an institution, bona fide club, or place of accommodation that is in its nature distinctly private.
What page are you on?
Oh, sorry, page 18,
Page 18.
subpart 18, line 20, line 20.
Okay. So these are places that the Department of Corrections, Department of Youth Affairs, and Guam Local Police Department lockup, they are places that service animals actually are not allowed because it does provide an undue burden and safety risk. I believe that that is what was intended in this part of the law. I know that I did speak to Mr. Tanner about the difference of animal-assisted interventions and using therapy dogs, and I was told that they wanted to use the term animal-assisted interventions as a broader term so that they could allow more activities than just a therapy dog.
All right, I think, I understand
Is
that.
that word?
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
I'm thinking too
We
that
did meet for a couple of
that
hours
term-
and talk about the terminology in here.
that term was intended to be broader, and from the bill I can see that it includes these professional working dogs and all the classes that they list under professional working dogs, so perhaps, but I'm thinking, that's going to be the stickler here, if anything, but thank you very much. I think that's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. If there's no other testimony, I know that Department of Agriculture did submit a written testimony that we'll include in the committee report as well. But if there's anyone else in the community that wishes to provide any input in this, please do send your written testimony via email or have it delivered here at the Guam Legislature. So without no further testimony, we'll adjourn this meeting and at 10:42 a.m. I just want to say thank you.